Hello and welcome everyone to this webinar on Poetry Out Loud 2023-24. We're so glad that you're able to join us today. My name is Monica Grable. I'm the Arts Education Director here at the Montana Arts Council. I have been on staff for about 6.5 years and involved with this great program the entire time. And I would like to now introduce you to Paige Farrow, our newly hired POL Outreach Coordinator, who has been with us for nearly a month. And welcome, Paige.
Thank you, Monica. And thanks everyone for having me. It's so good to get to know you. I am a Montanan. I was once a student growing up here in Montana, and I'm just moved back. And I am so excited to be part of the Poetry Out Loud project because I myself am a writer, and I know that when I was a student, I was always looking for chances to get involved in something that would speak to my passions. We all know that there's a lot of opportunities for clubs and all these sorts of organizations, especially sports in school, and there was not always an outlet for the creatives. So this is that, and I'm really excited to get to talk with you and all the students across this great state about this wonderful project.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Paige. To help our conversation today, I'm going to use a set of slides just to point out some key elements. And then at the end, we'll just talk about next steps and how to become involved. But our primary purpose here today is just to hopefully make you feel welcome and, to assuage any fears that you might have about any number of things related to the program, including how much of your precious time it might take up as an educator and that kind of thing. So hopefully we'll answer some questions for you along the way, but certainly we encourage you to reach out and we will share our contact information at the end of the slides. So here we go. All right. Give it one moment. There's always that nice delay. Doesn't like my graphics today. Sorry about that. All right, so about 19 years ago, actually, Dana Gioia, who was the chairperson for the National Endowment for the Arts, our federal arts agency, wanted to find a way to encourage participation in poetry, especially by youth. He enlisted his staff and eventually the Poetry Foundation to initiate this program at the NEA that would involve students all over the country. And the way that they chose to do that is to reach out to state arts agencies. We regularly work with the National Endowment for the Arts, so it was a sensible decision. And the program was born, and we were all tasked with every state arts agency, as well as 6 jurisdictions now, have been tasked with administering the program. So Montana Poetry Out Loud has been in existence for the entirety of that, going on 19 years now. This is our 19th program year, and we're so happy to do it. It has given us the chance to get to know many wonderful youth across the state and educators who work with them. And for us as staff to get out and about and see some of the program highlights in action. So Poetry Out Loud is a national arts education program that encourages the study of great poetry by offering free educational materials and a dynamic recitation competition for high school students across the country. Here is a little bit of a mini documentary that will introduce you to the program.
Perhaps the World Ends Here by Joy Harjo.
I Am a Fool to Love You by Cornelius Eady.
Zacuan Papalotls by Brenda Cardenas.
By Walt Whitman.
By Sharon Olds.
By Frances Ellen Watkins.
By Matthew Arnold.
By Mary
I, as a poet, believe all people need more poetry than they already have in their lives. And so I was very, very excited when I heard about Poetry Out Loud.
I myself was in high school when I began my commitment to writing poetry, and I'm glad I did. It changed the course of my life. One of the things I love most about this evening is that the work represented here is diverse and varied and shows the incredible breadth of American poetics.
Poetry Out Loud was started by the Poetry Foundation and the National Endowment for the Arts.
It is a national arts education program that encourages the study of great poetry by bringing free educational materials to teachers and a dynamic recitation competition to high school students all across the country.
Doing Poetry Out Loud was so different than anything else I'd really experienced, because the connection that I had made with both this poet and with myself and with the audience, it's given me a chance to look outside of my own bubble.
I still struggle with speaking up when I need to, but I know that I can. I have the ability to command a room, and I learned that through this program, that my voice can be heard.
The magic of Poetry Out Loud is at the classroom level. Poetry Out Loud hits on all 4 pillars of our English Language Arts class. We have reading, writing, speaking, and listening, all in the Poetry Out Loud program. So for the person doing the recitation, they're thinking about their pace, volume, articulation, dramatic appropriateness, their gestures, and for the audience, they're consuming great poetry. That's special.
I think I have carried a lot of what I've learned and what I experienced through Poetry Out Loud, both in my friendships and my relationships with my family, and even at work, expressing emotionally to other people.
It's so exciting to see how much it's grown since our beginnings. We're nationwide, it's reached millions of students, and we're so excited to see how far we can take this program in the future.
I believe that poetry is actually at the root of our relationship with creative language and creativity in language. Students who experience Poetry Out Loud, I hope will walk away with this perspective that they can write and do and be all of the things that they are bringing to the stage.
Everyone in the audience leaves a Poetry Out Loud event feeling deeply touched, hopeful for humanity, and heartened. And to me, that's what poetry does for us. It humanizes us. And teenagers need to know they have that power.
Do Poetry Out Loud because it only gives, you know, and being a part of that is so amazing.
So, as you can see, as that video demonstrated, this program really empowers students. So why was Poetry Out Loud created? To introduce students to classic and contemporary poetry, to encourage students to learn about literary history and contemporary life, and to help students master public speaking skills and build self-confidence. So what are the educational benefits for students? Improved public speaking skills, increased self-confidence and social awareness, higher academic performance, increased poetry appreciation and engagement. And as you and I have been talking about, Paige, in Montana, there are really limited opportunities, I would say, that allow for students to sort of compete or demonstrate their academic acumen. You know, there's a Science Olympiad and the Envirothon, certainly speech and debate across the stage for those students involved is another opportunity. And then there might be contests such as a spelling bee or geography bee that students are involved with, but this is just one key way that students can kind of find their voice personally, but also as a student to demonstrate, you know, their academic success in a category that is quite unusual. What are the benefits for schools? Positive visibility, enhance school spirit, can forge stronger connections between teachers and students. And again, at the Montana level, I would add just, you know, an opportunity for schools, school personnel, educators, and students to meet their counterparts from around the state. What do teachers get out of involvement in Poetry Out Loud? What do they receive? A teacher's guide and classroom posters, of course. Guidance on how to run a Poetry Out Loud contest, whether in person or virtually. And I and Paige are very happy to help you along the way, so no worries there. You will have access to a website with resources for both teachers and students. And very importantly, an online anthology that is close to 1,200 poems that allow students to not only find a poem that resonates with them, but to learn a bit about the writer of the poem. And then, of course, video examples of student performances, which not only exist within poetryoutloud.org, but also are readily available on YouTube from states and schools from around the country. The general arc of this program is that the program really begins most often as a teacher-student relationship. Either an educator is leading sort of a club model of a program, and that might be a classroom teacher or a librarian. In the cases where schools are not competing, by the way, individual students can reach out to us and compete without their school component. But the most typical and probably the most successful way for students to become involved is when their teachers decide to use Poetry Out Loud as a launch point for studying poetry in their classroom, and then encourage their students further through maybe a small classroom contest that leads to, in the cases where multiple classrooms are taking part, there might be a school-wide contest. Each school is able to send on their 3 top participants from their school, as well as 1 alternate, to a regional event, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. But the local contests, again, can be school-wide contests. It could also be that maybe your school is very small and you want to host a contest with another nearby school. Anything that gives students the opportunity to really try this out in a competitive way and, to really challenge themselves. So once we get to the regional contests, we typically have 4 of those across the state. And again, each school can advance their top 3 plus 1 alternate, and we have a way for alternates to take part as well. From each of those 4 regionals, the top 6 or so, top 3 to 5 from each regional will advance to the state contest. Typically, we have 18 finalists that arrive at state. The state contest happens here in Helena, and this year will be at the Grand Street Theater. And then 1 student will emerge as our state champion from that state contest and go on to compete at the national contest in Washington, D.C., have their trip paid for by the National Endowment for the Arts, and we at the Arts Council support teachers' travel. And at the national competition, there is 1 student from every state and 6 jurisdictions, so 56 representatives competing at the national level, getting to know one another. It's just a fantastic opportunity. There are some prizes involved in Poetry Out Loud. At our state finals, our Poetry Out Loud state champion will receive $200. The runner-up will receive $100. And then there is a $500 stipend, for organization or state champion school, and $200 stipend for poetry materials for the runner-up. At the national finals, the stakes are even higher, 20,000 for Poetry Out Loud national champion, followed by 10,000 and 5,000 for the second and third place national finalists. $1,000 is given to each of the other 6 national finalists and for 3 honorable mention recipients. A $500 stipend for schools and organizations of the top 9 finalists and 3 honorable mention recipients to purchase poetry materials. Last year, our state champion did make it into that final 9. Wichitawi Hoksheena Brown from Polson advanced into that final 9, and it was very exciting. As far as the curriculum aspects of Poetry Out Loud, the program satisfies NCTE, Common Core, and National Core Art standards, provides lesson plans tailored to program and with creative writing exercises. Poetry Out Loud can take place over just 2 to 3 weeks, or a longer time frame if that teacher so chooses. Poetry Out Loud can take place anytime between fall and early winter, typically beginning by the early part of November and extending at the school level through January. And it does not require full class periods, although again, that is at the teacher discretion.
So poetryoutloud.org is a great website to find all the tools that you need for yourself and also for your students. So this slide tells you all of the great resources and everything that's available to you at poetryoutloud.org. And we'll explore that website as we get done with the slides here. But on this website, you're going to see that poetry anthology that Monica was talking about with those almost 1,200 poems for your students to choose from. There's a teacher's guide and lesson plans, as well as audio and video clips for you and your students to see some students in action, actually recitating. And then we also have we have our judges guides where you can see how the students will be judged on their appearance and their recitation, as well as an accuracy judge who will be monitoring how close you are in the poem to the original. So your recitation, how closely it aligns to the original poem. And then also, of course, tips on how you can host a contest. Because as a first-time person to this awesome project, it might seem overwhelming and you don't know exactly where to start with. How do I even host a contest? There truly is everything that you need at poetryoutloud.org to walk you step by step through how you do this for your students. On this website, then, as you're looking at poems, you can search by poem or poet, subject, or theme. There's also a daily featured poem, and there are biographies that will say something about the poet as well as the work that they are creating. And of course, all of this is available in the mobile app too.
There are video resources for teachers and students at poetryoutloud.org as well. And the Poetry Out Loud YouTube channel, the official channel, as well as I would say most states, including ours, also have videos from their state contests and so on available. So just a general search or the YouTube channel for the National Endowment for the Arts will get you some great examples. The role that we play as a state arts agency is that we define the scope of the state program. We've followed the same path year to year, but we've made some adjustments, added some extensions. This year, for instance, those students who advance to the state finals will have the chance to compete in some writing workshops the day prior and have a little bit of poetry slam and social time the night before as well. As a state agency, we recruit schools and organizations to participate in the official state contest, as well as our regional contests that feed into the state contest. We coordinate the state program and the state finals event, and we partner with local arts organizations to administer the program as needed. And in Montana, we also partner with campuses around the state. We've found that particularly sort of English and writing programs at our various colleges and universities have a vested interest in showing off their university programs and having their students take part in a regional contest. Accessibility is really important to Poetry Out Loud, both at the national level and at our state level. So there are resources related to accessibility. There are ASL materials, a Braille anthology that is available, and support both at the national level. Typically, I field those questions to the National Poetry Out Loud office, but we certainly have resources and have the ability to have students in the state who may have a disability of some sort, and we've had those students participate successfully in the past. Here are a couple of great student testimonials. Poetry Out Loud has introduced me to many brilliant young artists and visionaries, and I've had so much to learn in an environment rich with sportsmanship, camaraderie, and genuine passion for poetry. And another, I have enjoyed seeing all the forms of literature coming to life in Poetry Out Loud. Seeing how everyone can express and convey their emotions through these poems really has brought new ideas to mind. Paige, do you want to share these testimonials?
Absolutely.
By teachers?
So teachers, as it was noted earlier, are integral to this entire project, and teachers really have a lot that they also garner from this amazing connection with their students and with the overall project. So one teacher says, when students feel confident that they have the ability to understand something and to express themselves, it makes it easier for them to interact in classroom discussion, and they make better editors of each other's work, and they just feel braver and more courageous about interacting. Another teacher says, I think our students are going to have an ethic of valuing poetry when they go out into the world, or valuing arts in general. They're now more likely to go into our artistic performance in the community, and I really believe that we are preparing them for a lifetime of arts, not just in a career, but as human beings.
I'm going to take a moment to just share some highlights from our most recent state finals here in Montana.
I found again in the heart of a friend.
Maybe artfully and stylistically, you can make it seem like it's just a pause, you know?
Too sweet for sleep. Or is it reasonable to discriminate against business documents and school books?
Presently, God said, and what did you do?
A cypress tree go. He spread his light among us like a candle.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? The Ragged and the Beautiful by Sophia Sinclair.
Her plans beyond high school are to attend college out of state and study creative writing.
Love's austere and lonely offices.
And
board wearing a gang color, it is not our obligation to inform you of your rights. Step aside, please, while the officer inspects you of your bad attitude.
Let's con you into thinking you're the one that can do what's never been done, that can win what's never been won.
So many great memories from that look back to last year, and it makes me look forward to everything ahead in this program year. We hope that you will consider involvement in this program this year. Certainly you won't regret it. Typically, when we have schools jump in, they don't leave. They're in the program going forward. Here are a few credit acknowledgements: the National Endowment for the Arts, Poetry Foundation, and of course, our Montana Arts Council. Just a couple of things to share before we hop out of the slides. First of all, please take note of our email addresses. Mine is monica.grable@mt.gov, and Paige can be reached at poetryoutloud@mt.gov. We just really look forward to connecting with you and helping you with the next steps. And again, before we hop out, I just want to highlight some of the key dates. If you received materials from us, either through a principal in your school directly, or maybe even the superintendent in your school district, you received a bookmark, hopefully, that has these dates on the back of it, as well as a program card with just kind of the nuts and bolts of the program and so forth. So those are resources that you may already have, and then there are plenty more that we can share going forward as you decide to jump into the program. So here are the key dates. We are still in recruitment period now through the end of October. I would say that recruitment really does extend into November for those educators and schools and individual students in particular who still feel ready to jump in and make it happen after November 1. We definitely don't want to leave anyone out. So however, November 1 through 30 is our typical engagement period, where students are investigating the anthology and finding poems that resonate with them, making choices, and beginning to maybe share those poems just within their classrooms. From about the 4th to the 14th, our typical classroom or club competition days, excuse me. And the reason I say clubs is that in some cases it's maybe a lunchtime or after school club initiated by perhaps the librarian in the schools. So it certainly is not restricted to classroom only by any means. There are a lot of different ways that students and their respective educators become involved in Poetry Out Loud. We do need to know by the 15th of December which schools are intending to participate going forward. And what that means is that at that point, schools need to know whether or not they're going to be advancing students to a regional contest. And again, every school is able to advance 3 students and 1 alternate to a regional, and typically a school-wide contest is held to determine who those top 3 to 4 students will be. During January, local, which can include school-wide competitions, are held, typically from about the 8th to the 26th of the month. And then on the 29th, students who are advancing to a regional competition themselves have their own individual registration. beyond that, in the early part of February, we host our regional events, and state finals this year is taking place in Helena on March 2nd. So much more to tell you about those dates, but these are the key upcoming dates so that you can see that timeline. Paige, is there anything to add before we jump out of the slides?
No, I think you covered it all, Monica.
Great.
Just
Thank you so
don't
much.
forget to capture our contact information so you can
Yes,
get in touch
and
with
actually,
us no matter what.
thank you. I'm going to back up to that slide just in case anyone didn't have a chance to jot down our addresses. You know, always you can call the Montana Arts Council and reach us that way too. So again, those key dates, recruitment is extending now through the end of October, and if we're being honest, well into November. And then the poetry engagement in classrooms and clubs begin leading us to the next steps in the competition, including those two important registration deadlines of December 15th for schools and January 29th for students. All right, let's stop sharing at this point. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me today. And you know, what we really want to leave you with, I would say the most really is that, you know, we are here to support you along the way. We will have a variety of ways to support you going forward. You know, individually through email, one-on-one conversations, by phone or Zoom, whatever is important for you. We are going to be hosting some generally available sort of open office hours where anyone can jump in during that time. So feel free to ask us about that. You know, we may have sort of a town hall meeting coming up for educators also to talk about how they're doing their programs. So much more to come, but please reach out to us if you are interested in participating, and we would just absolutely love to have you. Paige, last thoughts.
Absolutely, Monica just kind of summarized that really well. And I also just want to echo again that first timers, this might seem like a big undertaking and a really big project. And we invite you to look at poetryoutloud.org because it walks you through every step of the process from the very beginning. So check out poetryoutloud.org and get the information there, and then come to us with specific questions because we are here to support you and individual students. Anyone can do this, and we are really looking forward to seeing you participate this year. So thank you.
Thanks, Paige. Thank you, everyone.